Hello, and welcome to the Notary Business Talk, the podcast dedicated to sharing ideas, strategies, and techniques to help grow your business and improve your life. And now, with more than 2 decades of notary business experience, your host, Abraham Zamora, the notary entrepreneur.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Notary Business Talk. My name is Abraham Zamora, and I am the Notary Entrepreneur. In this episode, we're going to discuss some of the reasons why some notaries seem to be struggling in their business. And I see this happening, particularly the way things are going nowadays. Things are changing, and I have conversations with notaries, and I'm realizing that I'm noticing a common theme in the reasons why notaries are struggling. So I wanted to go ahead and address these now so I can hopefully help you guys, sort of give you some kind of framework or some kind of guide or maybe some sort of diagnostic tool that will help you evaluate your business to see where you're at now, what may potentially need some kind of attention or fixing so that you can hopefully improve, grow, and be successful in your business. Now, from what I can tell, and from just this is my personal experience, there are basically 3 main reasons why some notaries seem to be struggling in business. And the first one is that they're not really clear or have a clear idea of what success looks like to them. And so oftentimes people just think, I want to become a notary and make money, and that's their idea of success. But I think it's a lot more involved than just saying, I want to become a notary so I can make more money. And unless people do the work to sort of really dig deep and figure out what the idea or what their view of success is, they're going to struggle because they're not sure what it is they're trying to achieve. So we're going to get into that. The second thing is that notaries seem to be having a hard time adapting with the market, and the market changes. Since COVID, a lot of things have happened in the notary industry that have changed for a lot of notaries. And there's a lot more, shall we say, volatility in the notary industry. And some notaries, particularly those that have been doing this for a while, don't know what to make of it. They don't know how to adjust to the changes that are happening. And let me tell you, change is good. There's nothing wrong with change, unless you're not sure how to go along with that change and adapt. So we're going to discuss that as well. The third reason why I think a lot of notaries are struggling in their business is because they're not maximizing their income potential. And for now, I'll say this. A lot of people think that they're going to become notaries and that's sort of where it ends. But in reality, especially if you want to become successful as a full-time notary, then you really need to be open to the idea of offering more services and making more money with those same appointments that you're already going on. And that's why I call this show Notary Business Talk, but because we're talking about the business of notary, but I also call myself the notary entrepreneur because entrepreneurship is more than just the business of notary. It's about thinking like a business owner and adapting to the changes. This is what an entrepreneurial mindset means. So we're going to get into sort of how you can increase and maximize your income potential so you can start making more money. And if you're not already full-time, hopefully achieve that if that is your goal. So we'll go ahead and get into, which is sort of a nice segue into the first part of this conversation, which is notaries don't have a clear idea of what success looks like. Now, I'm going to get a little philosophical here because, philosophy is nothing more than a set of ideas or beliefs that help guide our life. And every one of us has a philosophy, whether we know it or not. It's what helps us decide whether we should do this or whether we should do that. Now, most people cannot articulate their philosophy because it's been things that they've been told from this person and that person. It's a mishmash of ideas, often contradicting themselves. And as a result, of the contradictions, they seem to struggle when it comes to making decisions. Now, I am an objectivist in terms of philosophically. I'm an objectivist. I think I've mentioned this before. And objectivism is a philosophy that was created by a lady named Ayn Rand. She wrote two very famous books, The Fountainhead, which is my favorite book of all time, and second, which is Ayn Rand, her book, Atlas Shrugged. Now, Ayn Rand and her philosophy in a sense says that the purpose of life is to experience joy and happiness. Whose joy and happiness? Your joy and happiness, as opposed to pain and suffering. And she has what she calls 3 cardinal values as part of this philosophy that sort of she used to live by and sort of teaches through this philosophy. And those are reason, purpose, and self-esteem. Her thing is that if you want to achieve that goal of joy and happiness, to be happy, you must, 1, use your mind, think. This is the reason part. Have a purpose in life. And when you achieve those purposes, that builds self-esteem, which leads to happiness. Now, why reason? Why is that so important? Well, we're rational animals, is the way she defines it. And as rational animals, we have a nature. Our nature is to survive and to thrive using our mind. I mean, a tiger uses his teeth and his claws to survive, but we could never go up against a tiger. We don't have the strength, and we don't have the claws, and we don't have the fangs like a tiger does. So for us to survive, we use our tool, which is our mind. And so we constantly have to be using it if we are going to be living well, if we're going to thrive. The second thing is purpose, right? In this, if we're using this as a guide to finding what success looks like as a notary or entrepreneur. Purpose is being very clear about what your values are. And what she means here by values is what's important to you. What do you wish to gain or keep in this world, in this life that we live in? And so for some people, it might be having time to raise their kids. Raising their kids might be valuable to them. To some, it's building a successful business because they've always wanted to do that. And it's a challenge that they want to push themselves towards. Some people want to save a certain amount of money. Some people want to have time to go play pickleball like I did this morning for 4 hours, which is why I'm a little tanned, by the way. If you guys are listening and aren't watching, I'm really tanned right now because I was out there playing all day. I value pickleball, right? Whatever it is you wish to gain or keep, if it's a romantic partner, if you want to meet somebody, or if you want to get married, stuff like that. Those are values. For me, my values have changed in relationship to my business over the years. When I first got started in the industry, I was very enthusiastic and I was out there working my butt off. But after my divorce, my values changed because I had a daughter who at the time was being homeschooled. In fact, she just recently is on her way out of being homeschooled and is going to be going into high school. Super excited, right? Good for her. But at the time, I was homeschooling her because she had dyslexia and the schools weren't really doing a good job of helping her with reading. And so for me, it was valuable that my daughter had a good education. And so I decided to homeschool her. Well, when I got divorced, my ex-wife went to work full time. And someone had to stay home with my daughter to take care of her. So I became stay-at-home dad. And so now the purpose of my notary business changed. Now the purpose of my notary business was to just give me the flexibility and time to be able to stay home with my daughter and homeschool her. And my goal was to make just enough to cover my expenses. And I did that for about 6 years until I met my new wife. And then ever since then, we've teamed up. But in that case, I was very clear of what my values were, and my business was geared towards helping me achieve that value. That was my idea of what success looked like. And so Ayn Rand says we need to be clear what our values are. What do we wish to gain or keep? Then we need to use our reason, our mind, to think about how we're going to achieve those values. So for you, you have to decide why are you doing this notary business? Is it because you don't like being an employee and you want to go full time? Then that is your purpose. That is the value you're trying to gain or keep. If you're married and your husband works full time, but you want to make extra income so you can start paying for some additional vacations or perhaps help with the bills, then now this notary business is a completely different animal for you. The idea of success in your notary business might be to just get a certain amount of notary appointments on the weekends when your kids don't need you as much and husband can take over. I hope you guys see where I'm going with this. And I think not having clarity of what it is you want, what is important to you, and how you would use your notary business to achieve those values and achieve that success that you're looking for will lead to a lot of frustration, anxiety, because there's no way of measuring your success. One of the things I like to do a lot is work out, right? I lift weights at least 5 days a week for about 2 hours. I'm in the sense of, physically fit. I'm a very physically fit guy, but I track everything that I do, and I can see whether I'm improving or not because I'm very specific about what it is I'm trying to achieve, and I'm able to track that, right? So being clear of what you're doing, what you want to achieve, is success. And once you achieve that success, then you feel good about yourself because you had a goal and you went out there and you got it. That leads to self-esteem. Ultimately, that leads to joy and happiness in life. All right? Now, in terms of finding meaningful work, a lot of times I see people who are notaries who really shouldn't be notaries. They don't really seem to enjoy it. It's not something they really like to do. Or they're bored, and there's a lot of reasons why, some people don't see themselves or have a good time being notaries. So part of success, especially in this world that we live in, is finding work that you find meaningful. Now, meaningful work, there's three things that I like to sort of three criteria that I use to evaluate whether the work that I'm doing is meaningful. And I'm going to show you guys how this is related in my notary business and how it's forced me to evolve my notary business over the years. So here are the three criteria, and I'll go over them individually. The first one is to find meaningful work, to find a meaningful career, meaningful job. One, can it sustain you financially? Is what you're doing going to help you pay the bills or pay for whatever it is you need to pay for to survive and thrive and sustain yourself? If you have a dream of being a rock star and your goal is to practice guitar every single day and play, in hopes that you're going to be rich as a rock star, the likelihood of that happening is not very high. And so you need to be realistic. Is what I'm doing and how I'm doing it going to be able to sustain me financially? And an example of this, as I tie it to the notary business, I was talking to somebody who wanted to go into RON because she wanted to do everything from home. Now, RON, remote online notarization, is a relatively new technology. And a lot of people still haven't adopted the idea of using RON as a means to notarize their documents, particularly companies like escrow and title companies. So the idea of, and I'm not saying this isn't possible, but for a lot of notaries, the idea of going into notary thinking I'm only going to do RON and hoping to do, to achieve a certain level of financial success, if that business isn't there, then this choice may not be the best choice in terms of, can I achieve the financial success that I need to survive, to thrive, and to achieve my goals, my values? So that's the first thing. Can it financially sustain you, the work that you're trying to do? This will define if it's meaningful or not. The second criteria is that you need to ask yourself, does this work challenge me? Does this work force me to use my mind, force me to use and think about things, right? Does it challenge me? Because again, we are rational animals. We use our mind. That's how we do. A dog chases his tail, buries bones, and runs around the yard. That is his nature. Our nature is to use our mind to think. And so you have to ask yourself, is being a notary going to be mentally stimulating enough? Is it going to challenge me enough to where I'm actually using my mind like I should be as a human being? And so, for example, with me, when I first became a notary, for the first couple of years, yes, that was the case. It was new. It was different. I was out there. I was learning new things every single day that I was doing loan signings, for example. But after a few years, I pretty much knew everything about the notary loan signing business. And it became boring. And it no longer mentally stimulated my mind. At that point, my work became less meaningful, in fact, not meaningful at all. And so over the years, I've developed other things, and I've done other things, and I've added other things to my business to help challenge me. I became a wedding officiant. Recently, I've been doing apostilles, and I've learned how to do apostilles. This podcast came as a result of me needing to try something different, a challenge, something that stimulated me, among other things. Or, for example, teaming up with Ronnie at Unlimited Ink to become, to start my own signing company within his company. Stuff like that, right? Just being creative. And so the second criteria is the work you're doing meaningful? In terms of, does it challenge your mind? Does it stimulate you? And the third criteria is, am I helping the most amount of people as possible? Am I adding value to other people's lives? And the more value you add to others, the more meaningful your work will be. You see, because money is nothing more than a tool of exchange. Between who? Between productive individuals. Two people who produce and want to exchange with each other. The more money you make, whether it's at your job or in business, as long as you do it ethically, of course, the more value you're adding to other people's lives. It's a way of measuring how valuable you are to others, because the more value your service or product is, the more people are going to be willing to give you their money. So the more people you add value to, the more meaningful your work would be. So identify if notary work is something that you'll find meaningful based on that criteria. And so identifying what those values are and identifying how this career, this business can help you make your work something that you feel good about, it's going to go a long way in you not struggling, because you're going to be very clear about what it is you want. I know the thing is out there is that everyone defines success as making a bunch of money, right? You hear the 6-figure notaries making $150, $200 an hour, and that seems to be the standard for success. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is not, and does not have to be your standard. And if you're not making that sort of money, don't feel bad about it if that's not what you're after. But the problem is most people aren't clear about it. They go based on what they see, what other people say is the standard of success. And then they get frustrated and they feel bad about themselves. Why aren't I making 6 figures? Why aren't I making $6,000, $8,000 a month? Well, so I hope that makes sense in terms of you being very clear about what you want in your life, because it's your life. It's for you to live, of course. Now, let me go into the next step, the next example here. And I want you to know that this is sort of a kickoff to a sort of a new direction that I want to go into, which is diving deep into each of these steps and kind of how you build a successful business. Because I think I've already talked enough about how to become a successful notary. And if you're new and you're still trying to figure that out, just listen to the first 10 episodes of my podcast, and you'll probably pretty much get as much information as you'll need about becoming a notary. Now, let me just say that this show is, I don't get paid for this show in terms of someone paying me to do this. This is funded by listeners like you, and it's going to be made possible by that. Long term, I value doing this. I really do enjoy it. And long term, my goal, my purpose, my hope is that I get enough support from listeners like you who get value from listening to this show, or just enjoy me talking, have someone talk to you about something that you're interested in, which is this notary career. Then I'm going to need support, right? My hope is that I can eventually make enough money where I could do this possibly full time. And so I do want to acknowledge a new Patreon subscriber who is now helping me with a monthly contribution. Her name is Amanda. So Amanda, thank you for contributing. And my goal, so that, by the way, that means I have a total of 3 Patreon subscribers paying me $5 a month. Thank you for all 3 of them. Jennifer, Ronnie are the other 2. My goal is to get to 10 Patreon subscribers. And as soon as I can do that, I'm going to start a new show called an AMA show, Ask Me Anything. And so I'm going to invite any of you who are supporters of the show to get on the podcast with me through like a Zoom and then just ask me questions. And you can ask me anything. It can be business related. It can be business philosophy, personal philosophy. It could be about my last vacation. I mean, you can ask me anything. That doesn't mean I'm going to answer everything. I'm sure there are some things that I will want to keep private. But, if you're curious and you want to know what my favorite song is or something, I don't know, that would be the time to have an opportunity to ask me. So if you're interested in supporting the show and maybe possibly being part of those future AMA shows, go to patreon.com/notary. There you can sign up and support the show. So now let's go on. Number 2 is notaries who struggle seem to have a hard time adapting to the changes in the market. Now, I do want to make not a correction, but I do want to sort of review some of the stuff that I said at the beginning of the year. I was expecting that the Federal Reserve would have dropped rates by this time or close to this time. And that hasn't really happened. Apparently, the Federal Reserve was hoping inflation would have dropped more, and it hasn't to the point where they would have liked it to drop to start bringing rates down. And so it looks like now they may not drop rates until the end of the year, if at all this year. And those things are important because those things affect the market that we work in, and it affects the amount of work we get and how busy we will be. And so there's 2 types of adaptation when it comes to our industry, sort of the macro and the micro. So the micro, or the short term, is things like interest rates, things like, supply and demand in the housing market, which will dictate how many houses are sold and bought, which will dictate how many notary appointments are required for these transactions to go through. And so in our industry, we have ups and downs. That's nothing new. On the macro level, something interesting has happened. You see, this career that we call loan signing agent is, if you really think about it, a relatively new career, maybe 30, 40 years old. Because back in the day, if you needed to notarize a mortgage or a loan, you would go to the bank to do that. because back in those days, people didn't have cell phones. People didn't have the ability to pay for printers because printers were expensive and people could just not have a printer at their house, and they were big and bulky. And so once pagers, I started when there were pagers, and I would have to call when I would get orders. I would get a number paged to me. Then I'd have to run to a phone, and I would have to call that number to find out if there was going to be an appointment of it, to ask me if I was available for an appointment. And then they would ship documents to us, and then we would sign them and then ship them back. There was no printing and, that sort of thing. So all that has sort of evolved over the last 30, 40 years. But I would say prior to COVID, this career was still a relatively unknown career. When I would tell people what I did, that I was a notary and I was a loan signing agent, the response I would typically get was, "What is that? Like, what does that mean? What are you talking about?" Or, "You really make a living doing that? Like that's all you do?" Those were typically the two responses once I explained to people what I did. Well, as we know, COVID changed everything. COVID forced people to have to look at doing something other than what they were doing, because a lot of them couldn't go to work anymore and they lost their jobs or weren't able to work anymore. And with along with a bunch of marketing that happened to promote this career of signing agents, becoming a loan signing agent, we have in the last 2-3 years have become inundated with notaries and loan signing agents. And this is the kind of changes that, unless a notary can adapt to it, will make their job and their business a struggle. And I think a lot of notaries are feeling that right now. Being part of a signing company, I can see how many signing agents there are. 2, 3, 4 years ago, an area that had a certain amount of notaries now has 2, 3, in some cases 4 times more notaries within that geographical area. In fact, back in the day, you could become a notary, get trained or figure out how or learn how to do loan signings, how to sign loan documents, and you could pretty much just do that and do really, really well, because there weren't a lot of notaries to compete with. That has now changed. And unless something dramatic happens, we're not ever going to go back to the way it was before. As they say, the cat has been let out of the bag. And in fact, a lot of you who are listening now learned about this career during COVID and because of all the marketing that was done promoting this business. Now, I'm someone who loves markets and I love competition. So to me, I don't have a negative view of this. I think this is great. I'm glad there are people who now have an opportunity to make the kind of income that I've been making for the last 23 years. And a lot of people will complain, well, oh my God, there's so many more notaries now, and we have to compete, and the rates are dropping and all this stuff. Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing because it's giving other people an opportunity, and it forces those who are really serious about their business to get creative and to become really good at the things that will make them successful in business. Let me just say that for the last 20 some years, it's been pretty easy to be a notary, except if, not counting the financial market crash in 2008, you could just become a notary and you had a career. Now you really have to think like a business owner. You really have to think like an entrepreneur, which means that you'll be listening to this show for a very long time. See, this is why it's good news. So let's talk about how we adapt to this. So number one is identifying, look, there's some more competition. There's more notaries out there. It's very likely, depending on where you live, that the rates aren't going to be crazy high like they used to be. At least if you're working through a signing company. Now, if you're going direct with an escrow or title company, that's different. But I think the day of getting paid really high fees with signing companies is pretty much coming to an end as we knew it pre-COVID. That is just a reality. And the sooner we accept that, the sooner we can ask ourselves, well, what can I do to overcome this and become successful? Well, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. But being able to even acknowledge that, be okay with that, and then ask yourself, what can I do to become successful in spite of these changes? That is what's going to make you successful. And unless you can do that, and I see it on Facebook, I see it on forums, people complaining and whining, those people are never going to be as successful as they could be. And they're going to continue to struggle because they're resisting the change. The change is happening, people. There's nothing you can do to revert that change if it's going to happen. The only thing you have control over is what you can do to mitigate and sort of compensate for that change. So let's talk about that. And there are really three ways we can do that. One is getting better at sales. Second is getting better in marketing. And third is getting better at using technology to become more productive. Now, I'm not going to get into these specifically today because those are big topics. And they're topics that I hope to be able to do in the future. Now, again, depending on how much support I get, I still have to work, right? I'm not making a living or getting paid much to do this podcast, and I would like to. But in the meantime, I have to continue to go out there and work and build my business and do my notary work. I'm still an active business entrepreneur, notary entrepreneur. So I'll do them as often as I can, these podcasts. But part of what I would like to do is discuss how I'm using sales, marketing, and technology to grow my own business. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, you guys have my email, contact@notarybusinesstalk.com. Shoot me an email. Let me know kind of in what way you guys would like to hear about that. I would love your feedback. But let me just quickly talk a little bit about that. The biggest thing that we need to think about in terms of selling, marketing, and using technology is how can we use it in a way that's different than how everybody else is using it. There has been some advice that's been going around for years to take donuts or cupcakes to an escrow officer. This is an example of how using a strategy that everyone else is using will no longer work. It will backfire on you because you're no longer being unique or different, right? Another example is kind of walking into escrow offices. I've been working specifically now on certain scripts that I would like to be using when I reach out and prospect clients for notary work. And I'll kind of give you what I'm working on, and you guys can, again, this is all still a work in process, and I'm still working on this. But before I would basically go in there and introduce myself. I'm a notary. If you need anything, so and so, right? A different strategy that you might want to try that maybe a lot of people aren't doing is you walk into the escrow office and you go up to the receptionist and you go up there and you have this sort of confused tone and you say to yourself, "Excuse me, I'm not sure if you can help me out, but who would I have to talk to or who's responsible here for making sure that that loan signings, when you guys notarize documents and loan signings, that they happen with less errors and mistakes. Who's responsible for making sure that happens so that clients have a better customer experience?" And so that person might say, "Oh, that's me. I'm an escrow officer here," right? Or they might say, "Oh, you might need to talk to so-and-so," right? Okay, great. Yeah. Would you like to talk to her? Sure. Why not? Now, again, these are just things that I'm working on, right? They're different. There's stuff that people aren't really doing right now. If you're able to talk to an escrow officer, the conversation might go like this. Hello, Mary. This is my name's Abraham. I'm a notary, and I'm calling. So I'm wondering if you'd be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your notary signing process that may be like causing errors and making you sort of look bad with your clients. Is that something you'd be open to talking about, or is that something that you'd be completely opposed to sort of discussing? And at that point, if they say, no, but what do you mean? They've now just given you an opportunity to have a conversation with them. You're like, oh, yeah, well, oh, sure. How are you getting your documents notarized now? Oh, really? And when you get them signed, how does that usually, what does the notary bring them back? How many errors do you typically get? How long does the notary take to fix them? I see. Good. And then you basically, offer your sort of solution if they have a lot of errors that they're getting back with notaries, or they're not willing to go back, to get those documents fixed in a timely manner. Then you can sort of then say, well, look, if, I may have a solution for you. I do it this way. And, is that something you'd be open to maybe looking into to work together? And now this is a much different way of marketing and selling yourself, because you're having a conversation with people and you're trying to get to the root of what their problems are. These are just some ideas, right? They're raw. I'm still working on them, but just some ideas to consider when you're going out there and trying to promote your business. The other aspect of this is technology. And specifically, I'm talking about using AI. AI has become the big thing to look out for in recent months, and with good reason. In fact, I've been using AI sort of since it started, and I kind of think of myself sort of as an AI expert. In fact, this whole topic, the outline for this show, was built through AI. I kind of used AI to help me come up with these ideas and sort of orchestrate and create a layout for the show. So AI is going to become a huge tool for a lot of notaries to maximize their efforts, whether it's going to be social media marketing or creating a website or SEO to get more general notary work. The sooner you can get comfortable and used to using AI, the more results and the quicker you're going to be able to compete and beat the notaries that you're competing with in your area. And yes, we are competing. There are notaries out there and you want to beat them. You want to be able to get the business before they do. That is what it means to compete in a free market. And it's wonderful because it's a game. I mean, I love competing. I was just playing pickleball, like I said this morning, and I play not just to have fun. That's one of the reasons, but I play because I like winning and I like competing and at the same time making a bunch of friends. By the way, pickleball is great if anybody wants to, in case anybody cares. It's I love that stuff. That I am so addicted to pickleball now. But yes, technology is going to be huge when it comes to creating marketing letters, when it creating certain scripts. The options are endless. Like creating video shorts for TikTok and Instagram, Facebook. Oh my goodness. I'm working on creating like little mini tutorial videos to market like apostille and jail weddings, jail notaries in my local area. And let me just tell you guys, there's this technology. I forget the name of the software, but I'll see if I can find it. Maybe I'll even teach a class on this. I don't know if you guys are interested, but maybe I'll teach a class. I'll do a paid class, like an actual course where you guys pay me, and I'll talk about how I'm using all this technology. But you can literally read off of the page on camera, and then this AI will adjust your eyes so it looks like you're looking straight at the camera. In fact, I may end up using it for this video. So if throughout this whole video I've been just staring at the camera, that's because I'm using that AI, because I'm really not. I'm looking to the side and I'm looking at my notes here. So there's a bunch of cool stuff. So technology and adjusting to technology. Don't be afraid of AI. It's not going to take over the world. It's not Terminator from what I can tell. It's a wonderful tool, and I think the sooner you can embrace it, the more successful you will be. Now let's talk about the third thing, which is maximizing income potential. And I think a lot of notaries aren't doing this. They're fixated on just being notaries. And it's fine. At the beginning, you need to get good at what you're doing. You need to be good at your craft. Once you've become good at being a notary, then you have to be, if you want to do this full time, if you really want to make a considerable income and make a career, I think, of this, I think the idea of being open to making more income with the existing clients that you currently have is something you really need to consider. And let me explain what I mean. So there's 3 areas here that I want to discuss. One is you yourself offering more services. That means you getting some kind of training or experience or some sort of license to be able, or equipment to be able to offer something else to new or existing clients that you currently work with, whether they're notary clients or, or you're just trying to get general notary business locally. Some examples of this are becoming an apostille agent, or, getting into fingerprinting and investing in the machinery and the equipment and the training for that, or doing what I do, which is, I've been a wedding officiant for over 15 years now, and marketing and promoting that as an option. Now, oftentimes you're going to promote these separately, right? You're going to get, if you have a website, you're going to market your notary business, but also maybe market your apostille business or fingerprinting business. These are industries and these are businesses that really complement themselves or complement the notary business. So if you're a notary, these sort of go really, really well with that. Now, in some cases, if you really want to take it a step further, then you can, and want to offer additional services, then maybe you could become like a paralegal, right? Or a document. I forget what they call them, but you're a document, in California, they call them a certified document preparer or something like that. It's basically a paralegal that fills out documents for people. So there's a lot of different ways that you can expand and grow so you can make more money than just a notary, but it still works with your notary business. The second thing is building what I call a notary business network. And this is the idea of creating a network of business professionals that you can work with and refer business to. And in some cases, do it yourself. But right now, let me just talk about the networking part of it. Now, this is different than just a regular networking business network. A lot of us have been told to do like get a mortgage or get a real estate agent to network with the idea that if we give them business, they'll give us business back. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to selecting individuals in certain industries that will possibly interest your existing notary clients, where you make money when you refer them. Not just hoping to get business back in the future, but every single time that you refer this business to somebody else, you're going to make some money off of it. And some examples are like teaming up with an insurance agent, whether it's life, health, some sort of insurance, translation services. I'm going to be doing a show with a guy who does translation services. He offers translations for people who need documents translated. If you're an apostille agent, that actually works really well with that. You don't have to you can offer the service, but you yourself don't have to translate those documents. You're not certified. You don't know the other languages. But if you know people that need that, there are companies and there are individuals. And I think the next show we do will be with this individual who will share how you can incorporate translation services into your business, not actually have to do them, just refer the business out, and you get paid a commission, if you will, every time you do that. Another example is working with a trust attorney that you make a deal with and you say, look, if I send you some clients, you promise to let me notarize those documents for them. That way I get something out of this arrangement. And now the more people you help with the trust and refer them with a trust to a trust attorney, now you are building a relationship with this attorney because you're giving him business. He's promising to you to let you notarize a trust, which, depending on how many signatures there are, can be quite lucrative. Those are really big documents that require lots of stuff notarized, especially if you're charging per notarized signature. And if you're doing that, it's very likely he might just give you all of the outside notaries, because not a lot of notaries are promoting or marketing to attorneys right now. So these are just some examples of how you can build a notary business network that directly compensates you for the people that you're already talking to. Now, I'm going to talk about how you do this, because we want to be ethical about the way we promote these services. If you're doing a loan signing for a signing company or an escrow office or a mortgage company, it is not appropriate to go in there with the intention to market the heck out of your business or your business partners. Your job is to notarize those loan documents and to be professional about it. If you abuse this opportunity of being able to meet and be in front of these clients who aren't your clients, you're providing a service to the clients that are sending you, they're their clients, then they will quickly find out, and then you will get a reputation for being someone that is promoting your services to their clients. And that's not right, guys. That's not ethical, and that's not what I'm suggesting here at all. What I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is to be in position to be able to capture any people who might be interested in anything other than what you're doing, which is notary. And the way you do it is very simple. You have your business cards or whatever it is you have. And while we're notarizing these documents, you have about an hour with these individuals. It's always nice to, do some small talk and get to know people, right? This is how we network. This is how we build rapport. And if you're sitting with someone and you're having a conversation, some of the stuff you might ask these signers that you're signing loan documents with would be, what do you do for work? Oh, how long have you been doing that? Oh, that's really interesting. You must really like it. Yeah, great. At some point, some of those people, not all of them, and if they don't ask you what you do for work, or if this is all you do, then you leave it. But through having conversations with people, a lot of people will ask you in return, hey, so how long have you been doing notary? Is this all you do, or do you do something else? It's very common for notaries to do something else besides notary work. A lot of notaries can't do this full time. When they ask you that, after you've been asking them about their life, and it typically happens, it's very natural, then at that point you can mention, well, I'm also, I also do apostilles, or, I actually help a trust attorney with marketing, or I work with a trust attorney who helps people with protecting their homes and their estates in case anything ever happens to them, so their property and their savings don't go to the state probate process, and that money can go to their family or something. If then at that point they show an interest, then you can say, oh yeah, sure. I mean, I can definitely, refer you to that person, or I can have them call you if you like. It has to be very natural. You cannot be pushy. It has to be just something that sort of comes up through conversation. And if you do a good job building rapport and they like and trust you, then you might have opportunities to be able to use your notary business as a way of marketing other services and products. This is particularly good if you're doing general notary work, because now if it's general notary work, and I will say this, if you don't feel comfortable, or if you feel that you can't be very natural about getting them to ask you what you do and then briefly letting them know what you offer, then you can definitely do this without issue if you have general notary work that you're attracting on your own, because now those people are your clients. They're your clients. And there's nothing unethical about promoting your other services to those clients. So just some ideas for you guys to consider. Anyhow, I hope that makes sense, you guys. Again, I encourage you guys to support the show. If you find it valuable, you can always go to patreon.com/notary to get more information on how you can support this show on a monthly basis. And then, if you find it valuable, if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button. That really, really helps. But until then, guys, I hope you found this show interesting and educational. And until next time, be well, take care, and stay productive, guys. Bye now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Notary Business Talk. To learn more about becoming a notary entrepreneur or to find out how Abraham can help you achieve your business goals, visit notarybusinesstalk.com.